crafty friends. It's 6 o'clock, so that means it's time for Facebook Live with me, Anne, the Stampmaven. I hope you guys have been having a good week so far. I know it's only Monday, but if it's been a great week, then I hope it continues. If it's off to a rocky start, it can only get better, right? I wanted to give a shout out to a couple people tonight. One of my downline, Pat, my team member in Maryland. Her husband has been in the hospital. They thought he had COVID, but he's pretty sick with RSV. So, Pat, I don't know if you're watching tonight, but I just wanted to let you know we're praying for you and send hugs and kisses to you also. I wanted to welcome new team member Renee. Yay! We're so happy to have you as a part of the Girls Inc. team. Renee decided to join Stampin' Up. We've got a great deal going on right now, and she took advantage of that. I wanted to show you this little bag right here. I don't know if you were on last week, but I showed a technique for coloring stamped images, and this leaf is one of our new stamp sets that has a matching die cut, and I use that technique. So I wanted to show you that. Tonight I have got a couple fun techniques that I'm going to show you using string. It's actually Bakers Twine that I'm going to be using, but if you didn't happen to have any Bakers Twine, you could use string. So let me flip the camera around and we will get started here. All right, I'll try not to make you too seasick as we are rolling along here. Let me give a quick shout out and say hello to everyone that I can see. Laura, hello from Philadelphia. Tiffany is here in Allen. Hey, Carol, up in Sherman. So those are the ones I can see. If I see there's some other of you here, but I can't see who you are. But hello to you as well. So I just wanted to say that all three of these pieces were done with that technique of coloring our paper. This one was stamped and die cut. This one was stamped and die cut with just the outline image, and this one I actually stamped with this same Evening Evergreen ink, colored it, and then die cut it. So there's all sorts of different ways you can do this. All right, here is our first sample. So this card I used for my base, I used thick basic white cardstock. It's cut to 8.5 by 5.5, scored at 4.25. Now, this paper here is our glimmer paper that it's got multi-colors on it. Of course, the piece I chose has a lot of purple on it because I am a purple fanatic. This is the part right here that is done with string, and I'm going to show you, actually, we're going to use Bakers Twine. I'm going to just use, actually, I'm going to use a smaller block, and all we're going to do is we're going to wrap this Bakers Twine around a clear block. Now, you can do whatever pattern you want with this, and then we are just going to tie it off on the top. Now, I notice right here that I might have cut this a little too short to tie it off, and I did, so we're going to start over. You know, that's the great thing about live. We can just keep rocking along. All right, let me wrap this around again. And you can just do it however you want it to make whatever pattern when you do your stamping. All right, now I've got plenty of room to tie this off. So we're just going to take my little fat fingers here, and you want to tie it off on the top of your block. And the reason is, which you can probably figure out, you don't want this knot to be interfering when you stamp. All right, now I'm just going to kind of separate this out again, just to give it a little more definition. All right, now I'm going to bring in my supplies here. I've got another piece of cardstock, and I've got my glimmer paper. Now on this one, my purplish was on the bottom and it moved up to green. I'm going to do it opposite on this one. I'm going to bring in my liquid glue, and hopefully it'll come right out. If not, I had a straight pin standing by. So we are going to just put this down. You've heard me say probably many times, the reason I use the liquid glue is it is very forgiving if you need to move things. I've just got a piece of basic white cardstock here, and I have not cut the backing that's going to go on this, but we'll do that later. So I'm using my, what color am I using? My Gorgeous Grape. Again, it's purple. I'm going to take my ink, and you know what? Let's cut off these ties here, the little ends on the top. So I'm going to ink this up in my ink pad, and then I'm just going to stamp right on this piece of paper. And then, voila. Now, you can see I missed right there just a little bit, but no worries. I'm going to get out my Gorgeous Grape marker. And then I'm just going to come in, and I'm going to use my end here, and I'm just going to fill in that color. And you won't even know the difference. Voila. Now, let's say you didn't have the marker. Well, here's another way you can easily just fix it. You can come in, stamp it again, like that. And you're just creating a fun background. And you can keep doing that as much as you want. Okay? Isn't that cool? So then what I would do is on this card, I stamped my happy in my Gorgeous Grape on my Granny Apple Green cardstock, which is also a color there. For this one, I used my Coastal Cabana cardstock and my Granny Apple Green. Then I would just, this one, since I have my glue right by me, we'll just use the glue instead of a dimensional, and pop that happy right on there. And ahead of time, I used my butterfly punch, and I punched out a little butterfly to just give a little more interest on this card. Then what I would do is, again, you could even mount it right like this, but I would go ahead and just cut a piece 1/4 of an inch bigger. There I would have that card. On this card, I actually used some real thin, this isn't actually even baker's twine. I think this is some thread I got in a paper pumpkin, but I wanted to tie in my string stamping here. So, okay, that is the first thing to show you. And then, of course, all I would do is take the string off this block and then either run the block under water or clean it in my chamois here. So that's exactly how you would clean that. All right, let me close this back up. Now the next technique I'm going to show you, my hands are going to get a little messy, but you know what? I don't even care. If you wanted to use gloves for this, you could. Here is the sample I created, and I don't know if you can see it on here, but this kind of looks like a calla lily. And that was the effect that we're going for. I used my Coastal Cabana cardstock, 8.5 by 5.5, scored at 4 1/4. I brought in some smoky slate ribbon, and I don't know if you can see here, I think you can. There's a layer of smoky slate, a layer of Coastal Cabana, and then I did my string art on the basic white. I took a piece of, let's see, 4 by 5 1/4 Coastal Cabana, and I ran it through one of my embossing folders. This is a floral one, just to create a little more interest, and I think that just looks fabulous. Now, let me show you. Here is another one that I did. Okay, it actually is the reverse of this one. I'm going to show you how we do it, and you actually do two at once. So you come out with two different ones. I used our shimmer white cardstock on this. I'm going to show you a couple of trial runs that I did with regular basic white cardstock, and I also used watercolor paper. To be honest, my favorite is the shimmer white. I think it turned out the best. Now, this is a piece of designer series paper out of our Expressions in Ink. Now, here's what I wanted to show you. There is no Coastal Cabana ink in this. There's mint macaron, there's shaded spruce, and there is evening evergreen, I believe, is the other color. But I just love this pattern here, and it reminds me of this. So I'm going to actually use this paper when I make a card, and when I get it done, I will post it. You could also, this is some more paper in the suite where the design is down the middle of the paper, and then it's white on the other end. And then on this side, it's got the floral, but notice how it's still got the green in there. So I could easily, let me turn it around here. I could easily put some designer series paper like this, maybe put some here, maybe just like this, maybe just like this. You really can use smaller pieces of your designer series paper to do that. All right, so let's get to the technique. Now I'm going to show you a couple different ways to do it. I'm going to show you first some of the ones that I did. We're going to just flip through them quickly. This is on the thick white cardstock, and I did a basic S pattern and looped it around. I used Calypso Coral on this, and again, one is the reverse. This one here, I just put it down, and I used kind of just a loopy pattern. This one I didn't like as well, but you know what? You could still do a lot with this depending on what other stamping. This one was on the bottom, and I actually used this thicker Baker's Twine, and I didn't like it as well as the thin. This one I really liked, and we're going to use this color tonight. I used the soft succulent. Again, I did some loops, and I'm using thinner Baker's Twine. You can use retired colors. You can use white. Here's another one that I really liked. This was the reverse of the one on my original card that I did, which I put right here so you can kind of see how that went. Here is some with the fresh freesia. Again, you notice this is a little bit thicker because the ink is a little more saturated when you press down on the bottom. This one, I love this one right here. And I'm going to use this for sure on a card. Here's more fresh freesia. This was done on the shimmer white, and this was done on the basic white. So you can see the difference there. Here I did it second generation, and by that what I mean is I did my string, put it down, did the technique, and then without re-inking, I put it down again. I really like this one. This one, not so much. This one, not so much at all. This is the watercolor paper, and it almost absorbed the ink too much. Now, that kind of looks like almost like a dinosaur head to me. So if I put some eyes on here, I might give that to my granddaughter and she'll think it's cool. This is one that I did with basic gray. Again, that's a little too dark for me, but I like the inside. Here is some that I did with soft suede. This is one where I just did a loop. Don't really care for that. This gray one's pretty cool, like that. Again, this Coastal Cabana. Now here's one. I think these are kind of interesting. You know, I might use these again, depending what I stamped with them. They might look okay. And again, here's one here, depending, I might cut this down and stamp over it to use as a collage. So let's get cracking here, and I'm going to show you a couple of different ways to do it. Now I'm using 3 1/4 by 3 1/4 pieces of basic white. This is soft succulent ink, and I'm going to give us a little more light here, just to maybe make it a little bit easier to see. So I'm going to take just this white Baker's Twine. I'm going to cut off about 16 inches. There's not really any specific, you just want enough where you can have a piece that is uninked to hold on to as you're dragging it through the ink. So I'm just using a sponge, and I'm going to, let's get the ink pad closed here. That's what happens when I talk too much. Let's grab that little puppy out of there. Perfect. All right. And you'll notice I have like a piece of cardboard here. You definitely want to do that when you're dragging your string through the ink. So can you see what I'm doing here? I'm just putting down the string on the ink pad, and I'm holding down my sponge just to get that ink on there. Then I'm using this old Webster's New World Dictionary. I use the pages in here on my cards, like when I'm doing what I call kitchen sink collage type cards. All right, so now what we're going to do, I've got my paper here. I'm just going to bring in my string here, and I'm going to just drop it on here in kind of this S pattern. And I'm just going to do a little loop here at the end, and that's what I've got. Okay, next I'm going to put this piece on here, and I'm going to close it up, and I'm going to turn it to the side so you can see. Then I'm just going to pull that string out of there. All right, and we'll see what we get every time you get something that looks a little bit different. Oh, I like that. Isn't that cool? It's kind of light, but I really like that effect. All right, now I'm going to show you another way to do it. I'm going to bring in, this is just a little case left over from embellishments. I save these when I use them all because there's lots of different fun things you can do with them. So what I'm going to do is, this time I'm just going to use this Bakers Twine just so you can see something different twine. They're about the same. This twine here and the white, I want to say they are really about the same width. I found that the thinner Bakers Twine works the best. So for this method, and again, you can use rubber gloves if you want to. I'm not going to use that because if my fingers get a little messy, that's okay. So I've just kind of swirled my string, my Bakers Twine in here. Then I'm going to take let me find my ink refill. Oh my goodness sakes, what in the heck did I do with that? We may have to use a different color here. Oh, here it is. All right, so I'm going to take my soft succulent ink, and I'm just going to drop in about five little drops of ink. This is one of these techniques. It's kind of trial and error, and you can see like all of these that I did them yesterday afternoon, the ones that I showed you. It's so fun just to play around with techniques. The thing is, sometimes there will be a Stampin' Up! Product that you want to order, and it might be on back order or who knows what. Well, of course, that's sad for everybody. I hate that when it happens too. You know, with COVID, some of the shipping things that have happened. I know China has closed a port. I was over with my daughter and her husband and 2 kids over the weekend. He pulled up a message on his phone that the 3rd busiest port in China was closed down due to COVID, so they got on Amazon right away and ordered more toilet paper and paper towels. But when I show you techniques, you can use whatever colors, whatever stamp set, whatever DSP you have, and then when you get your new stuff, you'll still be able to try the technique. Okay, so I've just got one of my water pens here, and I'm going to drop in just some water. And now I'm going to swirl this ink around, and I'm going to get all of my Bakers Twine colored with my soft succulent ink. And you can add more water as you're going along. Just hold on to this end because you want to keep that ink free so it's easier to pull on when you're doing your dragging through whatever book you have. And you can see how the first way I showed you doing on the ink pad with a sponge probably keeps your fingers a little cleaner, but hey, you know what? Crafting can be messy, and hey, I think that's part of the fun. So I'm going to take this out now. I'm going to drop it on my paper towel here, and I'm actually just going to blot it a little bit and blot off some of that ink. Okay, then I've got more of my paper that I've already cut, and we're going to do it a couple times. This is, again, my basic white. I'm going to bring in my Webster's book here, and we're going to just drop this down here. And now on this one, I don't want to grab the camera. Let's just kind of loop it around here and see what we come out with, okay? The fun thing is you don't really know what you're going to come out with till you pull it through. And I think that's part of the fun. All right, so I covered up my string. Let's pull it out and zoom, voila. And let's see what we have. All right, so see here how I was showing you? This is a little darker here, and it's a little lighter here, and it just depends the way you do your looping. Now, I'm going to show you, this is my shimmer white cardstock. So I'm going to take this string, and I'm going to just pop it back in here to get a little more ink on there. What do you think? Do you think you might try this? Or is it too messy for you? I hope you'll try it, and maybe you'll send me some pictures of what you came up with. All right, now let's pop it over here onto my paper towel, and let's blot it off a little bit. And let's see now what we're going to come up with using our shimmer white. And I'm going to do, you can use tweezers if you want to help you lay this down. I am just going to use that pen, my water pen, to kind of get it started. And then we're going to just zip around here and do a couple little S's, and then let's do a little loop-de-loop and see what we get. Don't you think this is fun? I do. All right, now turn it over here. I've got my string, whoop, pull it out, and let's see what we've got. Look at that. Isn't that beautiful? I think this is the best one yet. What do you think? Now, I think what made this turn out as well as it did, and I think I mentioned at the beginning, I like this shimmer white paper the best for doing it. And I think I got it blotted really well, so we were able to get the effect of pulling it through, but we didn't have the real dark part there, and it looks like calla lilies. Isn't that fun? Well, guys, thanks so much for popping in. If you need to order any Stampin' Up! Products, you can go to my website, and if you want to check out the special that we have for joining, not only do you get to choose $125 in products for only $99, and you pay no shipping, so that's a bargain too. Plus, you can pick from, I think there's about 10 bundles that you can pick free as extra stuff you get in your starter kit during celebration now. And the most expensive one that you can pick from is $60. So man, you're getting over $180 worth of products for $99. So check that out. And if you have any questions, give me a shout at Ann@stampmaven.com, and I will see you next Monday, if not before. Toodaloo!